Hey everyone, and welcome to Black Moth Radio, the show where we make working from home work for you. My name is Robin Bull, and I am your host. And I actually bought a royalty free music library and sound effects library for the show, but I've yet to download anything and actually, bother to put it in here to studio. So, hopefully, the next time I'm on, I'll actually have intro music, maybe some exit music too. Who knows? What I want to talk to you guys about today actually is how to deal with a bad virtual receptionist. And one of my clients uses a company that essentially acts as a virtual receptionist. And for those that don't know, of course, you know what a receptionist is. So with a virtual receptionist, basically the calls are answered in a separate location and then generally rolled over to the person that they need to speak with, or a message is taken, or they go to voicemail, or whatever. So it's like a receptionist, they're just not in your location. My client happens to use a company that is in her area, and they have a physical location for the receptionist. And a potential client went to that location because that's where they thought that the law firm was actually housed, even though it's a digital law firm, and was treated very poorly by the staff. So eventually this person made it into contact with me, and he was very, very upset with how he had been treated, and he certainly shouldn't have been treated the way that he was. So that kind of is what prompted me to discuss how to deal with a bad virtual receptionist. And we're also going to talk about the skills you need to look for in a good virtual receptionist and how a business can choose the right remote worker to fit their needs. So, basically, if anyone goes into that particular facility with my current client, the receptionists that are there are supposed to put that person into contact with me in some way, shape, or form. I've had them actually call from that office. They've just given the office cell phone number that rings directly to me, to them, whatever. And they're also supposed to explain kind of what it is that they do, which is essentially answer the phone. They're not actually there to house the office. But yet, once or twice a month, it's gotten to the point that I get a phone call from an irate client or potential client because the virtual receptionist at this particular facility happened to treat them like crap. And that is never, ever, ever, ever okay. So, last Friday was no exception, and I had to deal with the aftermath. Look, I know being a virtual receptionist is a job that all the cool kids want to have now. It's fairly simple for the most part. You answer incoming calls, you act professional, you route them to whomever they need to go to. There's no heavy lifting. There's generally not a lot of paper pushing unless you're also acting as an administrator or something else. But the thing is, there's lots and lots of clients and potential clients that a virtual receptionist will come into contact with. So, if you're thinking that you want to become a virtual receptionist, but you're not patient, or you don't like answering questions, you don't like answering the phone particularly, and you don't know how to make people feel welcome, being a virtual receptionist is not for you. And this isn't really about an introvert-extrovert thing either. I am an introvert. Being on the phone makes me mentally tired. However, it does not turn me into a raging bitch. In fact, I've written a relied upon source for customer service and law firms, and we'll talk about that here pretty soon too. And I know how to deal with people, so being an extrovert isn't an excuse for shitty behavior. Being an introvert or extrovert, either way, not an excuse for acting like a dick on the phone. So I just wanted to get that out in the open first, because when you work from home in any sort of capacity, or if you're hired to work for a company that provides virtual receptionist services, saying this is just who I am, this is just how I am, not acceptable, because you're in a position that's going to require you to be nice. So don't make excuses. You would not be that way, and I'm 99.99% sure of this. You would not act that way if you were dealing with the authorities about something. If you were pulled over, chances are you're not going to be a dick. You know how to be nice. So you know how to do it. It's just that you don't want to do it. And if that's sort of your outlook on your job, then, you need to find a new line of work. Business owners, you have to know how to choose the right virtual receptionist. I don't care what industry you're in. You can deal with a bad virtual receptionist by being very careful about who you're going to choose. So you have to look for someone with the right qualities. And I'll talk about those qualities here in just a minute. If you're hiring someone in another part of the United States or in another part of the world, I don't care. It's your business. You do you. Hire from wherever you want. Just make sure that you also know how to choose the right remote worker. You have to take the necessary time and steps to vet their professionalism, their experience, and their abilities. Because knowing how to choose the right virtual receptionist can save you a lot of heartache. A bad virtual receptionist can cost you clients. And I spent probably close to 30 minutes on the phone Friday with the guy who was upset by how he was treated by the virtual receptionist. It's not like they were in their own home or a private locked building or anything. It's an actual commercial building that rents out office space to other people. And I know that because we have a branch of that particular business here in my state too. So when this guy finally gets to me on the phone after leaving, he had to leave the office and I guess call them, and then they transferred him over to me, which is what they were supposed to have done to begin with, instead of treating him so poorly in there. He went off when he got me on the phone. He wasn't cussing at me. He didn't call me any names or anything like that. Although I can't necessarily say that I would have blamed him, although I don't necessarily think you should take any sort of your anger out on others. I had to let him talk it all the way through. The only time I stopped him while he was talking, and this is how you deal with the aftermath, people, was because I needed him to slow down with what he was saying and repeat the names of who he dealt with so that I could write that down and make notes about what happened so that I could follow up. And at that point, he wasn't interested anymore in working with the law office because of how he was treated. So then all of a sudden it becomes my job to try and not just fix the situation, but also to get the law firm back into his consideration. I do a very good job at handling people who are upset. Empathy is magical. However, it's still a situation that never, ever, ever should have happened. And the sad thing is that I end up dealing with things like this on a regular basis. And it's sad because we're supposed to be using a professional company. My client, this particular client of mine, has some fairly well-known clients of her own. And so they contact her directly. But we've also had several call the main line, and they end up getting transferred to me, which again is how it's supposed to work. Yet it's after they deal with the receptionist. So can you imagine the money that could be lost if any of them would have had the same experiences that this other guy had? And I've had people tell me on the phone, well, yeah, your receptionist wasn't so great. So it does become an issue. Keep in mind that you're paying for a virtual receptionist. So if they're being rude to your potential clients or your actual clients, your return on investment is essentially negative. And, in my opinion, that's some crap because you can fix that, thankfully. Unfortunately, though, it does affect the reputation of your business. It's important that you handle the situation immediately, or at least as soon as you can. When you realize that poor service is becoming the norm from your virtual receptionist, don't delay in taking care of the issue. Everyone's been treated poorly on the phone at some point. How did it make you feel? How would you feel if you called back and continued to deal with the same person who clearly doesn't like their job or thinks that dealing with clients is something that's beneath them? So when you realize that there's an issue, you have to deal with it. The first time, it's likely acceptable to attempt to just retrain the receptionist to meet your standards. And after you do the retraining, you need to have mystery callers who will call in without notice for a while, just every here and there to make sure that the standard is being met and continues to be met. And if it continues to be a problem, you just need to drop them. Find someone else. There's an entire world of virtual receptionists out there who can do a great job for you. My suggestion would be to look for one that has experience in your industry, but, don't seek me out or call me unless you're a law firm, and even then, I'm more along the lines of, my job is to make sure that clients stay happy. It's more on the end of law firm administration and, whipping current remote workers into shape so that they're meeting your standards. So, if you're listening to this and you get treated poorly by a virtual assistant, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. First, write down their name, the date that this happened, the time of the call or visit, why you were calling or visiting, and detail how you were treated. But you need to do this immediately so that you don't forget any of it. Then Google around and find the person for the business that you actually needed to contact. I don't care if you have to reach out to them through Twitter, Facebook fan pages, not their personal page, because sometimes with the personal page, if you're not already connected, that message you send is going to, go into the depths of message requests, and who knows if they're ever going to look at that. So, Facebook fan page, and send a message through that. Website contact forms, because that's going to go to someone. It's not always going to go back to the virtual receptionist. Some really do just answer phones. But, some websites will have pages devoted solely to telling you about whoever is working at the business. Sometimes if you go in there, you can find a direct email too. Whatever you need to do. You could even look on LinkedIn. There's a host of ways online that you can get the information that you need. Most virtual receptionists don't handle the Twitter page, the Facebook fan page. I already told you they don't necessarily get the website contact form information, all that stuff. They most just handle the phone calls. So by reaching out and going around the source of the problem, hopefully you'll eventually find someone like me who will listen and do what they can to take care of it. Do me a favor though, and don't yell at the person you do eventually contact. I cannot help you if I cannot understand what you're saying to me. And generally, when people start yelling because they're upset, their voice goes up 5 octaves and their words start running together, and it's just really, really hard to understand you. But then I come off sounding like a dick because I'm trying to tell you in a nice way to calm down. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I need you to take a deep breath so I can understand what you're saying to me. However, I know some of these situations are extremely frustrating. It is totally acceptable for you to say to the person that you get a hold of, my name is John Smith and I'm really, really upset, and I just wanted you to know that before we start talking because of what happened with my interaction with your receptionist. If I come off and sound like I'm angry, I am, but I am not angry at you. It's amazing what saying a little bit like that can do for the other person on the other end, because they immediately relax. They know you're upset, but they also now know you're not upset with them. You know what upset you. They're also more inclined to help you solve the problem. Next, ask for an email address or a direct line for the person that you actually speak with. Not the virtual receptionist, but the person you actually get a hold of. Gatekeepers or virtual receptionists always have to transfer the call to someone. That is the person, that someone. Get their information, their direct line, their email address, smoke signals, whatever. Make sure you get that information. Also, from the position of talking to the virtual receptionist, if they're being ugly, ask for a supervisor. There may be another person there that you can talk with if it's an actual company that's being ran and not just, someone that the business happened to hire who works from home. Make sure that you ask for a supervisor. You never know. There may be someone you can talk with, and if there is, hopefully that can also get the situation under control. Try to stay calm. At some point, the virtual receptionist will be questioned about what happened in that situation. I know it's really hard to stay calm when someone is screaming at you like a methed out banshee, or, when they've treated you really bad. I know it's hard. But someone in the situation has to act like an adult. And the tit for tat really doesn't get us anywhere because, when people like me go and talk to the virtual receptionist and say, what's going on here? It's not going to help if they start telling me how you started yelling and carrying on at them because, you know, they said something you didn't like. Even if it's something that so-and-so's not in right now. Because I've had some legitimate situations where people have complained to me about the virtual receptionist. And when I talk to them about it, the virtual receptionist is, well, all I did was tell them so-and-so wasn't available and that they'd have to leave a message. So make sure you're being reasonable in your requests too. If you're making an in-person visit to an obviously commercial office space, and that's where you're treated poorly, ask for the office manager. Then talk to the office manager about what happened, but you should still reach out to the person that you've been trying to contact so that person can ultimately take care of it because they're the ones paying for that service that is coming out of that commercial space. So, I don't really know what's gotten into people lately, but when it comes to client care, you really do need to be nice. It pays to be nice. So, let's talk about the real skills that you should look for when you're looking to hire a virtual receptionist. Business owners, the reason they hire a virtual receptionist is because they don't necessarily have the time to answer their own phone. And sometimes, you get someone on the phone and you think they're just going to, you're going to answer one question, have a 10-minute conversation or whatever, and either book a consultation or send them on their merry way. And it turns out that they are a talker and they do not shut up. So that a lot of the times is why, people use a virtual receptionist. But it's important that you look for the right skills. The first skill, and it may seem obvious, is communication skills. Your virtual receptionist needs to have excellent communication skills. They should be able to communicate well with you, and they should also be personable towards your clients and potential clients because those are the people that are calling the business. Those are the people that are going to pay you for your services. When you interview virtual receptionists, make sure that you pay attention to how they speak with you. Not to you, not at you, not for you. This includes whether or not they're interrupting you. Are they truly listening? Do they show you that they're listening? How's their tone of voice? What words are they choosing to talk to you? Are they asking questions if they need more information? Do they, just think about the things that you would want to see or experience if you were the one that was going to come into contact with them. So, next, they should have a professional image over the phone. Of course, if they're working in a commercial space, you may want someone that projects a certain image in that respect as well. And the professional image is important, and when I say that, I mean kindness, empathy, how it is that you want your business to be perceived. Because this person, even if they're a freelancer and self-employed or contracted, they're not actually your employee. They are still acting as an extension of your company. So because they are the first person that clients and potential clients are likely to contact first, that's their first contact, you need to make sure that the image they're being given is the best one possible. The person you choose should be open to accepting and displaying the values and mission statement of your company when they are taking or returning calls on your behalf. They need to have basic knowledge about your industry. This means that the person knows basic terminology that could be used by you or anyone who's going to call your business. In cases where you plan to use a virtual receptionist to return phone calls on your behalf, they also need to have a basic understanding of concepts so they can, if necessary, explain those concepts to people who have questions. And if you are a lawyer of any sort, virtual, private office, I don't care. Always, always remember, it is still your job to supervise. Your virtual receptionist / paralegal / administrative assistant / whatever you want to call them, cannot give legal advice. You can give them information to relay, but they cannot give legal advice. If you're not using someone who already has experience in the legal field, make sure they understand this. Make sure of it. Also, your virtual receptionist needs to have a history of good punctuality. As you're interviewing them, make sure that you're finding someone who can meet the time demands of your business. People in different time zones should be made aware of the hours that you need them to be available to receive calls or return calls on your behalf. They should also have a history of positive job performance. And it doesn't necessarily matter whether they have that job performance is, other contracted work that they could do from home or their own location, or if it was, more traditional employment. That doesn't matter. What you're looking for is to make sure that people are going to show up and do the job and be available when you and your clients and potential clients need them. So, depending on the main language that is spoken in your business, you need to make sure, I originally had this written as a clear grasp of English, but, there are places that are bilingual, some that deal mainly in Spanish, so whatever language it is, make sure that the virtual receptionist you hire can communicate well in that language for clients and prospective clients, because they need to be able to understand what your virtual receptionist says, and your virtual receptionist needs to be able to understand them as well. You should ensure that you hire someone who understands and speaks the main language. This is particularly important if you have a demographic who may have a hard time understanding people on the phone already. So, in addition to speaking good English or Spanish or French or Mandarin, whatever, they need to be able to enunciate their words and speak clearly on the phone. And, this could actually mean that they have to have good equipment, a good headset. Maybe they need to learn to speak louder on the phone. Whatever it is, as long as they're enunciating and clients are able to hear them, because that is, of course, super important. Otherwise, your callers are going to get extremely frustrated with you. They need to have experience with the right equipment. Remember that your virtual receptionist will be the first line of contact for anyone who calls, and as such, you need to choose someone who is experienced in using the equipment that is required for them to receive and make calls on your behalf or transfer calls or whatever. Unanswered calls and more than occasional software or hardware glitches can cause your business to look bad. So ask potential virtual receptionists what equipment and software they're using, how the process works, and how much experience they have with it. And you need to make sure, too, that your business needs are compatible with that equipment. And if you have specific equipment and software that you would prefer that the virtual receptionist uses, that also needs to be clarified. And if they don't have it, are you the one that's going to pay for it, or are they going to be required to pay for it on their own? So, that's kind of what you need to know as far as the skills that you need to look for so that you can avoid, the whole dealing with a bad virtual receptionist thing. So just to recap, communication skills. They need to project a professional image of your business. They need basic knowledge about your industry. They need to be punctual and available when you need them. They need to have a clear grasp of the language that your clients and potential clients most likely speak. And they need to have experience with the equipment that's going to make the job go smoothly. So, businesses. How can you make sure that you're choosing a remote freelancer the right way to assist your needs? This doesn't even have to be for virtual receptionists. It could be client intake. It could be help with marketing, billing, supervising employees, HR, payroll, research, writing, whatever it is. Obviously answering and returning phone calls. So, there's a lot of different industries out there that, you can find someone who works from a remote location to help you with. And we all owe the internet a great big thank you for that. It's only been over the last 15 years or so that small businesses have gained more than just the opportunity to get in touch with people in their target market. It's also provided options for business owners to outsource some tasks to remote workers. And this generally allows a business owner to focus more of their time on more important matters. Why would you want to choose a remote worker over someone that works in your office? To be fair, choosing remote options to handle many of your day-to-day business tasks certainly isn't for everyone. There are people who prefer a more hands-on approach, and if that's you, you're likely to prefer the environment created by hiring and training and using actual employees and not just remote workers. But There are several benefits that come with partnering with a remote worker. And one of the best known benefits is, of course, lowering your overhead. When you work with someone who is going to be completing their task from a remote location, it costs your business less money overall. You're you're not having to deal with hardware equipment, extra user licenses for software, desk chairs, more office space. So, you're not paying for extra insurance, you're not responsible for their taxes. It just lowers the overhead for your business overall. And that's great for many businesses. And you only have to get the help that you need. If you don't need help with your billing, but you need help with incoming phone calls, then you can find a virtual receptionist and not worry about someone to take care of the billing for you. It's particularly helpful if you're working with an extremely small budget, but you still need help. Think about it. If you hire someone full time to handle your billing, you could be paying them to sit around the office when they're done. If you hire a remote worker, you might pay a flat fee or you might pay them on the number of hours they actually worked, but either way, it almost always costs less than hiring someone on a full-time basis. The process itself is generally less expensive than traditional hiring. Think about everything that you'll have to pay for if you hire a regular worker, either part-time or full-time. In addition to the increase in overhead, you'll have to provide salary and benefits. When you hire a remote worker, or even an organization, you don't provide benefits, you don't mess with insurance, none of that. So location independent workers end up being a less expensive option most of the time. Your small business, another benefit to it is that it ends up looking bigger than it actually is. And there are benefits to that too. Sometimes people don't want to work with a business if they realize it's just one person. So getting remote assistance ends up being a great solution because you can hire someone to handle incoming calls and client intake. You can hire another person who handles billing and questions related to billing. And even though you're still the only person that's probably doing the actual work and, of course, paying yourself, your business still ends up looking like it has multiple departments. And so sometimes that can be attractive. There are options if you need to hire someone who's going to work remotely. You can find individual freelancers on Upwork. There are, of course, other places that you can find them. I happen to be on Upwork. I'm not affiliated with them, though. I'm just a freelancer there. So, you can find pretty much anyone that you need through Upwork. Like I said, there are other sites too. I just don't know them very well. You could find someone to handle your billing. You could find a virtual assistant. You could find a good virtual receptionist, marketing help, whatever. Fiverr is also becoming a viable option for many people. So, but whatever website you use to find someone who works remotely, it's imperative that you verify the person's background, their skills, and of course their references. Do not neglect the interview process. If they have previous feedback, make sure that you read it. There are freelancers who are available at practically every single rate. But if you want someone with experience, you're going to have to offer fair payment. There are also organizations that are available to provide services for your clients. What you'll pay will largely depend on what you have to be done. There are companies like Clients Arm who offer both packages and bundled services. So, again, you could get help with, say, customer service while you still handle your own marketing or, writing your own policies and procedures or whatever. So, let's talk about some best practices real quick. You need to understand what it is that you actually need. Start small with just one item that you need help doing. Starting small makes it easier for you to watch over the entire process. Knowing exactly what you need means fewer things have the potential to fall through the cracks. It's easier for you and the freelancer/remote worker to get on the same page. Make sure that you know your budget. Think realistically about what your budget will be to, have a better idea of your options. Decide whether you want to pay someone hourly or if you want to pay a flat rate. Many freelance websites should have a way for you to sort freelancers based on their rate. If you're interested in outsourcing to an organization, you're probably going to need to call them to set up a consultation to talk about what you need and get an estimate in that way. A lot of places do offer free consultations, but it can, again, still be difficult because if you end up on somebody's mailing list, that may not be something that you're interested in doing. So think about equipment and software. What equipment or software will your remote professional need to complete their tasks? This is important because most remote workers do provide their own software and equipment, like I mentioned earlier. But if you're needing them to use something specific, but they're using something else, unless you guys already talked about it, there was no way for them to know. Consider information security. Most industries have certain standards that you need to follow. For example, the legal industry actually has, rules in place that talk about data security. So if you're in the legal industry and you wanted to hire a freelancer or an organization or, a remote worker, you would want to choose someone that already has at least some experience or knowledge of the legal field and understands the current requirements for information security and abides by them. Make sure that you have open and clear communication. First, make sure that whatever language you speak most fluently is also spoken most fluently by your chosen professional. The purpose of this is to help reduce the potential for miscommunication. Additionally, hire a person that you're comfortable communicating with and who is responsive to your needs, because having good communication ends up being the key to a successful experience for both of you. Make sure you're on the same page about when your professional will be working. One of the main benefits for remote workers is that we can sort of enjoy working on our own terms and times. Everyone's life is different, so it makes it easier. Like for me, I try to work primarily from about 8 or 9 in the morning until, generally till whenever I get done in the evening. But there are some days where there's summer school or there are OT appointments, there are doctor's appointments, there's all these different things that I'm probably going to have to deal with. And so that's one of the reasons why I am self-employed, is so that I can do this. And, most of my clients know when I'm working. They know if something has come up. And they also know how to get a hold of me. And I only have one client who has their clients contact me. So on the hours that we have decided that I will be available, I always have the cell phone on me. For some remote workers, working on their own terms could mean that they work better at night or in the 5 o'clock in the morning. So if you need someone to help you with client intake or returning phone calls or things that need to be done during regular business hours, then you need to talk about that. You need to make sure that whoever you're interested in is available to work during those hours. There are some activities like accounts receivable that could be done in the middle of the night, and that's likely not going to cause any issue. But you need to make sure that both of you are on the same page about when the professional will be available to work on your project. Also, both of you need to be clear about how many hours each day / week, both, whatever, you expect them to devote to your project. If it turns out that your project doesn't take as long as you thought it might, that's fine too. However, you should create an hourly cap and request that they notify you if they reach the cap, and then provide you with an estimate of how much longer they think it's going to take for them to finish. Updates are important anyway. You should manage by outcome. You're choosing a remote professional to help you reach a particular outcome. People become remote professionals to work in an environment that's better suited for them. I'm one of those people. So you have to be careful not to try to force your professional to fit into your ideal work environment if it's not suitable to them. Instead, focus on whether you're getting the desired outcome, and regular communication about goals and needs will help you make sure that happens. So working with a remote provider is certainly an excellent way to get your needs met and keep costs down, but you need to make sure that you understand exactly what it is that you need and shop around to make sure that you're finding the professional that will fit you best. And that's important because, if more people would do that, they would be able to avoid the whole bad virtual receptionist situation. And even for their own selves, a bad situation with the remote professional who ended up not working out for them. So, what are some ways, though, Because maybe you're new to business and you're not entirely sure what the virtual receptionist or even you or anyone else in your company could do to improve customer service. So let's talk about some ways that you could do that. Number one, learn from other companies. Zappos is a great example. They offer stellar customer service. I am not a shopper there, but we've all seen the stories about how easy Zappos makes it for people to return their shoes, and they basically have a no hassle customer service policy. Your business can also give award-winning customer service. You have to look at things like responsiveness to your customers, how cost effective your solutions are, because that's part of it. That also keeps clients happy. When you deliver great customer service, you need to make everything you do client focused. So your website, your policies, your employees, your remote staff, everything that comes together that makes your company, should work together to make it easy for your clients and potential clients to get the information that they want and need. Clients should never feel like getting an answer to a question is a hassle. So when you make it easy for clients to do business with you, there's no incentive for them to go anywhere else. You need to make sure that you understand life from the perspective of your client. Treat your client like you want to be treated. And I'm going to use the legal industry as an example. Family law, personal injury law, tort law, bankruptcy, criminal defense, even estate planning, they all have one thing in common. They can bring out the worst in people. Even mild-mannered professionals can suddenly, become rabid shells of their former selves when they need to talk to a lawyer, because it creates anxiety and fear. And so, no matter what industry you're in, you're providing solutions. Someone has a problem, you're providing a solution. And if that problem is bad enough, it can cause them to act all sorts of crazy ways. So to provide the best customer service, you must have a basic understanding of emotional intelligence and interpersonal communication. Those two skills can help you identify the emotions and feelings of your client so that you and your staff can respond with a professional level of empathy. It's also important to occasionally take the time to touch base with your client and see how they're doing throughout the process of, whatever you're doing for them. That goes a long way in increasing client satisfaction. It's important for all businesses to understand that customer service starts with first contact. So that's the whole virtual receptionist again, or your traditional receptionist, or talking to you or the account manager, whoever it is that answers the phone. So to create the best possible customer service experience for your clients, you have to examine your entire process. This starts with the very first time someone calls or fills out a form on your website. One of the most important things that you can do, and I've already talked about this, is to hire the right person to answer your phone and even to return emails that, get sent to you through the web form. This is more than hiring someone who just has a pleasant voice for the phone. This person has to sound friendly, but they also have to go above and beyond when it comes to being patient, and you have to empower them so that they can make decisions and solve problems where necessary. But above all, the person you hire must understand that your business is client-focused. When you interact with clients, you need to use active listening techniques. Active listening will reduce anxiety, and it positively impacts your relationship with the client because they feel like you're really stopping to hear them out. You're not just about the money, you're actually there to help. So, also, make sure that you embrace the details. Details can make or break just about any project, and you need to take that same detail-oriented attitude and apply it to your clients. Not only will your customer service improve, but your clients will trust you more. And the more your clients trust you, the more they will tell others about you. And the more they talk to, others about what you're doing for them, the bigger your business can get. And then, of course, depending on the industry that you're in, the more your client trusts you, the more they're going to tell you. The more they tell you, the better you can help them. So you can do this in a number of ways. A couple of the most common ways include sending out an email or making a quick phone call to a client who has expressed some sort of change. This could be the birth of a child, it could be graduation, it could, anything. When you get these small details about your client and you reach out to them, they see it as something more than just a service relationship. And because you're building that personal bond, that's what makes them more likely to refer your business to others that they know. You should take the time to explain your policies to your client. During the initial consultation, or the first time you talk to them, you should do more than listen to stories and talk about money, although, that's important. You need to explain how and when your business returns phone calls, provides updates, and how your client can get their questions answered. This helps set expectations, and you get bonus points if you make up a cheat sheet that they can refer to later, like basically a little printed out version of FAQs. It's really, really short. If you want to improve your customer service, call your clients back within 24 business hours. Always, 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 always return calls in a reasonable amount of time. For me, that tends to be about within 24 business hours. This even works if you don't have an answer for the question. Just call them back and tell them, hey, I'm still looking into this, but I didn't want you to think I forgot about you. I'll call you tomorrow. So just touching base like that can go a long way. Make sure that you keep people updated on what is going on. People want to know what's happening with their project. Set the expectation by informing clients during your first meeting how often you're going to provide updates. Then follow your own policy. It's not just enough to write the policy, you have to use it. Be careful, too, when you're providing updates about the language that you're using to talk to your clients. Industry-specific jargon can cause frustration. It can make people think you're, talking in a way that's condescending. So make sure that you use plain English to explain updates. If there are terms that you really can't replace, just make sure that you explain the concept, particularly if you've never used it before, and of course ask them if they have any questions or need more information. Make sure that you embrace technology. Since customer service starts with the very first contact, you can make that easier. You can use CRM software, which is, client relationship management software. Some people call it contact relationship management software. And it can help you streamline your intake, stay in touch with your clients, automate the follow-up during the representation after you've closed the file. There are solutions for booking appointments through your website. There are chatbots that can help you do the same thing. And as far as chatbots, don't get too worked up about them. They're not going to steal your job. Not all AI gets smarter. It has to be programmed with machine learning in order for it to get smarter. So, don't worry too much about that. But look for technological solutions that can be used specifically for your industry. You'll also find that is also extremely healthy too. Healthy and healthy. It'll be both, I promise. So, customer service, though, is the key to growing your business. And it doesn't matter how great you are in your industry if you don't have any clients. So if you want to continue to grow in your business, you must focus on customer service. That includes, dealing immediately with crappy virtual receptionists and replacing them, avoiding them altogether if necessary. Happy clients are going to refer others to your business. And it's not that hard to get those referrals if you're providing your clients with good customer service. So, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope that you've enjoyed learning about how to deal with a bad virtual receptionist, how to spot a virtual receptionist with the skills that you need, and getting some tips not just about how to, choose the right remote worker in general for your business, but also how to improve your customer service. So, see you guys next time, and remember, this is the place where it is always bring your kid to work day. Don't forget to head over to confessionsfromthecouch.com, and over there you can join our almost 2,000 subscribers. We're sure that you'll enjoy it.